In a huge operation in Nablus, the IDF destroyed an explosive manufacturing site of the Lion's Den terrorist group, while also taking out 6 of their terrorists. A stabbing attack in an Arab town here in Samaria. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is now blaming Israel for the new alliance between Russia and Iran, and a poll about the upcoming elections here in Israel. I'm Justin, and this is the Israel Guys. Hello and welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of Jew hatred and anti-Israel propaganda, you should have direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Guys, make sure to like this video. Also subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you never miss any of the episodes of the Israel Guys that we're bringing to you. Guys, this video is sponsored by Blessed by Israel. So we're going to jump into the news for today. The IDF actually destroyed part of the infrastructure of the Lion's Den terrorist group. We've been talking about that a lot recently. They're the new terrorist group here in Judea and Samaria. They've been causing a lot of trouble. They've been responsible for a lot of the terrorism that has been happening. So Monday night, the IDF did a huge operation down in Nablus. They basically raided one of the hideout apartments that was basically used as headquarters. Also, it was an explosive manufacturing site. It was used by the main operatives of the Lion's Den terrorist group. And the IDF went down there, basically, and they detonated the explosive site, which made a huge gun battle happen from this. There were dozens of Palestinian Arabs down there burning tires, hurling rocks at the troops, also shooting live fire at the IDF. The IDF responded to that, and there were a huge gun battle ensued. They said there were like 1,000 troops down there, and they even brought in the Air Force and helicopters as backup. But according to Palestinian Arab reports, 5 terrorists were killed and 19 were wounded in this gun battle. Also, one of the main leaders of the Lion's Den, Wadia al-Hu, was, thank God, neutralized. Just this past week on Sunday, one of the main leader of the Lion's Den was taken out when he was walking past his motorcycle. It detonated and he was killed. But thank God, another one of their leaders was taken out here in this huge operation. The IDF released footage. In this footage, the IDF soldiers can be seen unloading from their vehicles and entering the Kasbah. And upon being fired upon by armed men, they returned fire, and there was a huge gun battle. Border Police Commander, the Chief Superintendent, Amir Cohen, said, quote, "Border police forces in a joint operation with military forces in the precise direction of the Shabak," which is basically like the FBI in the States. They're undercover here. They thwarted a major target tonight and damaged the infrastructure of the terrorist group, which recently carried out a series of attacks against Israeli targets. And then after this operation on Tuesday morning, the Palestinian Authority declared a general strike across Judea and Samaria. They were shuttering schools and businesses, and they were encouraging workers and students to go out and protest this raid that happened. It's kind of humorous, though, this strike, because they're not harming any Israelis by doing this strike. Yesterday, we were in Jerusalem, and we were driving back to the Mount of Blessing, and we had to drive through the Arab town of Huwara, and everything was shut down. There was like no traffic, which is usually a lot of traffic there, so it was really nice. But everything was shut down. They shuttered all their businesses, and they were going out to protest. Thing is, Israelis don't really shop down there, so this strike is not harming any Israelis. They're sort of shooting themselves in the foot here. They're harming their own people. They can't shop down there now because they're doing a strike. But they can keep that up if they want. Senior Palestinian Authority spokesman Nabil Abu Rudaina, he warned that Israel will face the consequences for the operation in Shechem, and he also called on the Biden administration to intervene on the PA's behalf, which I sincerely hope that they will not do anything about this. He said, quote, "Israel must immediately halt its crimes." Oh, wow. So taking out terrorists is now a crime. Definitions are changing these days, really. And then he said, "We are facing an apartheid state." Sorry, but this has nothing to do with apartheid. It's very simple what happened. The IDF went down into Nablus to take out a terrorist hotbed, and they did their job. There's nothing about apartheid, nothing about crimes. Tariq Salmi, a spokesperson for the Islamic Jihad terrorist group, it's another terrorist organization, said his organization would avenge the deaths of the terrorists killed during the Israeli operation. He said, quote, "The Israeli Jihad movement mourns the fallen Palestinian heroes." Oh, wow, they're heroes whose pure blood watered the soil of Shechem. Their blood will not be in vain. The occupation's crimes in Shechem require a united national stance to push back on the aggression and to respond to these crimes. He's also saying they're crimes. Sorry, there's no crimes happening here. The Samaria Regional Council head, Yossi Dagan, responded Tuesday to the operation. He said, quote, "The successful IDF operations last night and on Saturday night in Shechem are praiseworthy and prove that only wide-scale military activity will eliminate the terror." He's absolutely right. The only way that terrorism is going to cease here in the heartland, here in Judea and Samaria, is for the IDF to do what they did on Monday night, to go in, to do huge operations and to take out these terrorist hotbeds, their headquarters, and to take out the leaders. Because without leaders, then terrorism will slow down, if not cease. He went on to say, "For the past month and a half, we have all been warning, screaming, and begging that the security checkpoints be replaced and that there be a wide-scale military operation against the Palestinian Authority's terror infrastructure. I call this Operation Defensive Shield 2, not necessarily an identical operation, but a large operation that will change the reality with the terror organizations, that will send them into defensive positions." So, Yossi Dagan had this great response. It's great what he's saying. But while he said this, an Arab member of Knesset, her name is Ada Thomas Sliman, she called these terrorists who were killed, she called them martyrs. And remember, she is part of the Israeli parliament, the Knesset. She wrote on Twitter, quote, "Nablus says goodbye to our saints. The Palestinian people say goodbye to their martyrs. As the occupation escalates its crimes, the resistance escalated. This is a basic lesson in the history of nations." Guys, she is in the Israeli parliament, the Knesset. Why on earth? This is absolutely ridiculous when she basically hates her country. She's saying what the IDF did is wrong. And there's martyrs. These are terrorists that wanted to kill Jews. They have killed many Jews. Also, a couple headlines from your favorite news agencies. CNN, their headline about this operation, they said, quote, "6 killed by Israeli forces in the deadliest day for Palestinians this year." Oh, wow. Nothing about the IDF going in and taking out terrorists like what they were doing. Also, Al Jazeera said 6 Palestinians killed by Israeli forces in occupied West Bank. Wow. So moving on with the news, there was a stabbing attack yesterday in an Arab village in Samaria. An Israeli man entered a store in the Arab village of Al-Funduk here in Samaria yesterday. It's not a great idea to go into Arab stores because it's very dangerous, sadly. So the Jewish man who, who was 50 years old, he entered the village with his son and he was stabbed in the stomach. He was treated by Magen David Adom and United Hatzalah personnel, and he was evacuated to the Sheva hospital in Tel HaShomer. They said he was in moderate condition. Later that evening, the terrorist was thankfully arrested. Guys, we're going to talk about the new alliance between Russia and Iran. Russia is using drones now to strike Ukraine, and they're getting them from Iran. But first, let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Blessed by Israel. So, Blessed by Israel, they're not just the sponsor. They're great friends of ours. A lot of them work with us here at Hayovel. But basically what they do is they sell products from the biblical heartland of Israel. They give you a way to invest in the small family businesses of Judea and Samaria. Being a pioneer here in, especially in the heartland of Israel, is not easy, especially when the whole world is standing against, basically the whole world is standing against them, saying they have no right to the heartland, to their homeland. They have no right to live here. So if you want to go directly against that and say that they do have a right to live here, you can support their businesses through Blessed by Israel. Go to blessedbyisrael.com to buy their products. They sell all kinds of things: olive oil, honey, soap, cosmetics, but you can check all that out. Also, but Blessed by Israel is directly standing against the BDS movement, boycott, divestment, and sanctions. but they have their own version of BDS. It stands for Bless, Defend, and Serve. So if you want to bless, defend, and serve the people of Israel, then you can go to blessedbyisrael.com to buy their products. If you use the code INVEST, you can get $5 off your first order at checkout. Go to blessedbyisrael.com to show your support for the biblical heartland of Israel and Judea and Samaria. These people need your help. So, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, he's now blaming Israel for the new alliance between Russia and Iran, the military alliance. He claimed that Israel's refusal to provide military aid to Ukraine in response to Russia's invasion of his country is the cause of the current military alliance between Russia and Iran. Wow, I do not think that's the whole cause. Anyways, he spoke by video at a Haaretz conference on Monday. He said that, quote, in 8 months of full-scale war, Russia has used almost 4,500 missiles against us, and their stock of missiles is dwindling. That is why Russia went looking for affordable weapons in other countries to continue its terror. It found them in Iran. This alliance of theirs simply would not have happened if your politicians had made only one decision at the time, the decision we asked for. Every time we in Ukraine at the meetings of the staff of the Supreme Commander-in-Chief discuss Russian missile and drone terror, we also talk about our partners and who already help or can help us protect the sky. Unfortunately, the words Israel, Israeli are not heard during those moments. He also accused the Israeli government of deciding, quote, not to help Ukraine for real, as far back as the invasion of the Crimea in 2014, in order, quote, not to annoy the Kremlin. So, according to Zelenskyy, if Israel had provided Ukraine with the air defense systems it requested, quote, Russia would not even have had a motive now to go to Iran and offer it something in exchange for assistance in terror. This is not the reason. Israel does not want to get fully involved in this war. And even on Monday, Defense Minister Benny Gantz spoke by phone with his Ukrainian counterpart, Minister of Defense Oleksiy Reznikov. I'm sure I did not say that right. They agreed that Israel would assist Ukraine in the development of a civilian early warning system. See, Israel's doing everything they can to help Ukraine, but they do not want to get fully involved in the war. Gantz reiterated that Israel would not provide weapon systems to Ukraine, but they're working together to provide a civilian early warning system. Also, just yesterday, the Israeli president, Isaac Herzog, participated in an Atlantic Council event in Washington, D.C., which marked 2 years since the Abraham Accords. He joined former U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Daniel Shapiro, and they had a conversation together. In the conversation, the president actually presented intelligence establishing the use of Iranian-manufactured UAVs against civilians in the war against Ukraine. See, they're helping Ukraine. They're providing evidence that Russia is using Iranian-manufactured UAVs against civilians. Again, Israel does not want to get fully involved in the war, but they are doing everything they can to help Ukraine. Isaac Herzog said, quote, innocent civilians in Ukraine are being killed and hurt and wounded and are suffering from Iranian weapons. Iran flatly denied supplying drones to the war against Ukraine. I want to show you 2 slides that unequivocally prove that Iranian drones are participating in the war in Ukraine against innocent Ukrainian civilians. I want to point out that Iran has kept on supplying these drones and they are attacking all over Ukraine with suicide drone special UAVs that are meant to create havoc in large scope. So President Zelenskyy is wrong. Israel is not the cause for this alliance between Russia and Iran. President Herzog is providing evidence that Russia is using stuff from Iran, and Benny Gantz is working with with the defense minister of Ukraine to provide a warning system to Ukraine. So, a little bit about the upcoming elections actually just happening next week. According to a recent poll, the religious Zionist Party would receive 14 seats in the Knesset, which is huge if this poll is correct. So the religious Zionist Party bloc basically is a combination of 3 relatively small right-wing parties. They banded together to run in a technical bloc to make sure that none of them fell below the 3.25% threshold. So basically, if they all combine together, they'll have a better chance of making it in the Knesset. Whereas if they're separate, one of them or other might fall below the threshold. So this whole bloc, the religious Zionist bloc, is led by former Minister of Transportation, longtime parliamentarian Bezalel Smotrich, and then Itamar Ben-Gvir, who's very popular right now, here in Israel. He's second on the list. So one of the reasons, though, that Ben-Gvir and his party, this whole party, is becoming more popular is actually thanks to the left-wing media here in Israel. They've basically turned Ben-Gvir into a top story. He's sort of more radical, going against terrorism. He's very strong against terrorists. And Ben-Gvir has become a regular guest on Israel's TV networks and political news programming. But at the same time that they're inviting him to air his views on live television, much of Israel's left-wing media, including anti-Netanyahu politicians, they branded Ben-Gvir a racist because of his strong stance against terrorism. So while many have called him a racist, he responded to this statement. He said, quote, "Our Tanakh, Bible, teaches us that we are from here. We have come back to our land. I am not a racist. I do not hate Arabs. I hate terrorists." He said it right there. He does not hate Arabs. That he's not a racist. He hates terrorists and terrorism, which all of us should. We should hate terrorism. So with his party getting 14 seats, according to these polls, they're polling as the third most popular party in the Knesset. Right now, the top is Likud, led by former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And then there's Yesh Atid, which is Prime Minister Yair Lapid. He's the interim Prime Minister right now. It'll be interesting to see what plays out. The elections are next week. We'll see if Ben-Gvir's party, if the religious Zionists, makes it in the Knesset, if they form a coalition with Likud. Benjamin Netanyahu, we'll have yet to see. We'll be reporting on this in our upcoming shows. We'll keep you informed on the elections and what goes on. Guys, in the meantime, make sure to check out Blessed by Israel to show your support for the biblical heartland and to push back against BDS. Show your full support for the small family businesses of Judea and Samaria. You can go to blessedbyisrael.com. Let us know what you think in the comments below. We love to hear from you. In the meantime, tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening in the land of Israel. We'll be back every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.